you may have seen there's a clip that went viral on social media with the deputy fire chief of Los Angeles, where she's sort of saying, oh yeah, people will ask me, can you carry my husband out of a house, in danger? And she's like, well, your husband got himself in a place that he shouldn't have been.
Is she strong enough to do this? Or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire, which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
That was her response. It was like,
I saw that video, and my first thought was, that can't be, was that real?
I know, it looks like a parody. It's crazy. But you're like, yeah, that's literally your job, is to be able to carry someone. Can you imagine like someone being like, oh, yeah, your elderly father, we couldn't carry him out of the house, and he shouldn't have been in that house when it was burning down.
Or your daughter gets raped walking to school. Yeah. Well, she shouldn't have been wearing a skirt.
Right. Yeah. Which was all... That's like the left campaign. Like when I was in college, like that was the whole don't blame the victim. That was the whole thing. Of course, they're all...
Which I would kind of agree with, by the way. I mean, you should be able to look attractive and not get raped.
Of course.
You should be allowed to be old and immobile and not die in a fire. Like, what are we even saying?
That's civilization.
It's civilization.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What's the point of civilization? The point of civilization is to protect the vulnerable and to make it possible for people to reproduce and continue.
Right.
So make it possible for you to have kids and your kids to have kids. Like, there's no reason to have it other than that. So,
at the most basic level.
Yes. And so I don't understand, like, how could she say something like that and not get fired or arrested?
I know. She should have been fired as soon as that came out. I mean, and Gavin Newsom should have called for her to be fired. The mayor should have called for her to be fired. She's still in that job. I mean, that's dangerous. Like, it's a violation of firefighter ethics. That person is a danger. In other words, she's going around suggesting to all of her people that work for her that they're not responsible for saving. But I think it reflects the mentality, which is a nihilistic mentality, which is that we don't belong here. We stole this land. And so and this is this, let Malibu burn. I mean, it is definitionally nihilism. I mean, it's anti-civilization nihilism. There's sort of two forms of nihilism. One of them is basically anti-civilization, anti-human, modern life. And it stems from this earlier nihilism, which is that life has no meaning. We're just like animals. In the famous Russian novel Fathers and Sons by Turgenev, the nihilistic character dissects a frog and says, we're just like this frog. Yes. We're just matter. We're just dead matter, just this assembly. So it's a very dark nihilistic story that then leads to this just, nihilistic anti-civilization ideology.
Strong families are built on strong foundations, and it all begins with what you bring into your home. It's hard, though, because Big Pharma and the processed food industry have spent decades putting you and your loved ones at risk, pushing toxic, harmful products that make you sick, that have made our country sick. It's not a guess. That's happened. So it's well past time that someone decided to help you fight back. Public Square is doing that. Public Square is the leading family marketplace where you will find clean, healthy products sourced from American small businesses that actually share your values. Now is the time to abandon the corporate food conglomerates in favor of something better, healthier, more pure. Make the switch, stock your home with the quality essentials, and shop for gifts your whole family will love. And it's easy. publicsquare.com/Tucker. And you can get started. publicsquare.com/Tucker.
The problem with the DEI is that when you're just orienting an entire organizational culture towards racial and sex quotas, rather than towards, okay, what about the Santa Ana winds and the fire risk and whatever, it's just, we all know that, like, it's not just time in the day, it's also mind time. It's like, what do you think about when you take a shower? What do you think about when you're putting on your shoes? Like, where is your head at? Their head has been in the clouds around DEI, the larger society, ESG, climate, homelessness. I mean, the list goes on and on. But it was on homelessness. We now know, because the state audit came out, $24 billion on homelessness since Gavin took office in 2019. Tucker, homelessness in California increased by 40% under Gavin. Can you believe that? I mean, 40%. So, because everyone goes, it's such a curious mystery as to, we spent all this money on homelessness and yet it just increased. It's like, well, yeah, because you spent money incentivizing and subsidizing homelessness. You spent all this money to attract people from all over the United States. I mean, I interview people in California that are on the streets, and it's like, nobody's from California. I mean, they come in.
The only reason I feel like I have any understanding what homelessness is because the interviews that you did several years ago, which are the most I never heard of you before I saw these interviews, and you did, and I would recommend to our listeners to go find them because they're on YouTube. You did the thing that I've never seen anybody do it before. Others have followed since you did it, but you just went and you interviewed the homeless and like, what are you doing here? Yeah. Tell me your story. And they were remarkably honest.
Oh, they want to be. See, the thing is, like, homeless people, they're always lonely, you know, and so they're obviously these are people in a really bad way, and they're eager to tell their story. They have a lot to say. They're not. Most of them are not dumb.
Some of them were not dumb at all. I was shocked by it.
Oh no, and they do lie, like at the beginning. So I mean, you have to. The secret to all great interviews, as you know more than anybody, is you need to have a long time.
Yes.
Because people they lie at first and then the truth comes out. Yes. So like you'll interview people and you're like, where are you from, brother? And they'll be like, oh, I was raised here. And then you get like 30 minutes in the interview, they're like, oh, I'm from Arkansas, you know, I'm from Texas or whatever. So yeah, I mean, they're from all over. They come. You know, the most famous one I did was with James Church. He had tattoos on his face, and he was just an incredible. I just love that interview so much. I think it was like I spent like an hour and a half with him, just holding my iPhone up to him while he's talking. But he was the one who was like, you know, if I'm being honest, you know, they pay people to be homeless here. And I was like, what do you mean by that? You know, and he's like, I get $650 a month, you know, in cash welfare to be homeless here, plus a couple of $100 more in food stamps. It's a great deal. And he was like, I got Netflix on my phone. I watch Amazon Prime TV on my phone. You know, I still electricity from the light pole right here. That video, I will say, is very satisfying. I do think that played a pretty big role in the voters of San Francisco voting to get rid of cash welfare for homeless people.
But why did it, I know I've asked you this before, but why did it fall to you to do that?
It's because, we know why. I mean, because
you weren't a reporter. You weren't working for a newspaper or a TV station.
No. I mean, look, for me, this is the golden age of journalism. It is so much fun. Like, because basically I can go into every story and you discover that people aren't really doing reporting. You know, I showed up at the house that the guy lived in, the guy that assaulted Nancy Pelosi's husband.
Yes.
Just to give you a sense of where journalism is at. And I show up and I'm just happy to be there. And there's all these journalists there. There's like a bunch of like local TV news and like the local print or whatever. And I was like, oh, hey, what's going on?
He lived out in Berkeley, right?
Yeah, he's in Berkeley. Yeah.
Yep.
Black Lives Matter flag in front.
Yeah.
You know, abandoned school bus. It was a really terrible environment. But and I was like, have you guys already? I was kind of like worried. I was like, I got here late. And I was like, so you guys already like knocked on all the doors of the neighbors? And they were just like looked at me and they were like, no, we're like not. We're. I can't remember, one of them said, he was like, oh, we don't want to be like rude or something, or that would be like inappropriate. I was like, and at that moment I was like, oh God, this is going to be great. And I just like went and knocked on all the doors and like get all the information. Like, oh yeah, they would around naked out there and they would be on drugs all the time. And yeah, they were like all left wing and it was like black, you know, I was like, oh, this is amazing. Like there's no competition. Like it's, you know, I got on the White House briefing just recently, the White House briefing on UAPs, which you and I are both interested in, on the drones. And it was just like, you can kind of go into these stories, you just start talking to people and you just realize journalists they're not really journalists. They're more like kind of the people that would run for like class president or something. They're kind of goody two-shoes types.
They're ass kissers, yes.
Yeah, they're actually very authoritative. I mean, they're the ones that wanted all the censorship.
Of course.
So they're not that old picture of journalists is like this kind of cantankerous and like, you know, crabby and they got rid of all those people.
Anti-authoritarian,
difficult people.
I'm the son of one of those. I grew up around this.
Classic, right? That's like the greatest. I mean, there's like, and you realize it's essential to the functioning of civilization to have a bunch of disagreeable people running around asking impertinent questions.
Exactly.
So with this one, it was like, so I mean, you basically get like when you just look at the coverage of the fires. I mean, it was like the reporters that are going out and doing it. It's like their whole thing is like, oh, we've got to make sure that the right wing doesn't take advantage of this situation to push their agenda. Like literally that's how they think about it. So they're out there running cover for the I mean, it's amazing.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.